I'm Sophie. The room was filled with a stunned silence, broken only by the sharp gasps of disbelief. I sat there, my hands frozen in my lap, as Mr. Thompson, the lawyer, read out the final allocations of my father's will. My son, Ethan, sat beside me, his small hand tucked tightly in mine, his eyes wide with a mix of confusion and wonder. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all these years of being cast aside, of being treated like an outcast, my father had left me everything. The grand family mansion in Boston, its priceless contents, and all the surrounding land. In addition, I was to receive a sum of $250,000 in liquid assets and the entire balance of his retirement savings. And for Ethan, a college education trust of $100,000. Across the room, my step-siblings, Victoria and Ryan, sat in utter shock. Their faces were a mask of disbelief and anger as they realized that the fortune they had been expecting was now mine. Victoria shot up from her chair, her eyes blazing with fury. This can't be right. There must be a mistake. She shouted, her voice shrill and panicked. Ryan, too, stood up, his jaw clenched tightly in anger. He was sick, he didn't know what he was doing, he growled. But Mr. Thompson remained calm and composed. There is no mistake, he said firmly. Your father amended the will 2 years ago, when he was of sound mind. The documents are certified, witnessed, and registered with the county. As chaos ensued around me, I found myself lost in a flood of memories that transported me back to a dark and painful time in my life. It had been 10 long years since I had last set foot in this house, since I had been forced to leave the only home I had ever known. I was just in my early 20s when I met Derek. He was charming, at least at first. But as our relationship progressed, the true nature of his character began to reveal itself. He was controlling, possessive, and violent. My life became a living nightmare, a constant cycle of abuse and fear. When I finally found the courage to leave him, I thought I could turn to my father for support. But I was wrong. Instead of offering me a safe haven, he cast me aside, blaming me for the breakdown of my marriage. You made your bed, now lie in it, he had said, his words like a knife in my heart. With a bruised face and a broken spirit, I packed a suitcase and fled to New York City with my newborn son, Ethan. It was a difficult and lonely journey, but I was determined to build a new life for us. I found a small apartment and a job at a local library, shelving books and helping patrons find what they were looking for. It was a simple life, but it was ours, and it was safe. Despite the pain and hurt I had endured at the hands of my father, I couldn't bring myself to forget about him. Every month, I would send a little money through an old neighbor, Mr. Miller, just to make sure he had what he needed. I never told Ethan about it, and I never expected anything in return. It was just my way of showing that I still cared, even if he didn't. Then, one day, I received an envelope in the mail. There was no return address, just my name scrawled across the front in a familiar hand. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized my father's handwriting. I almost threw it away, thinking it was just another piece of junk mail. But something made me stop. My hands trembling, I opened the envelope and found a funeral invitation. My father was dead. I stared at the paper, my mind numb. I didn't know how I felt. Shock? Sadness? Anger? All I knew was that I had to go. Ethan must have seen the look on my face because he came up beside me and said quietly, "Are you going to go, Mom?" I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. I just stared at the words on that crisp white paper. Then he added, "Maybe he left more than a will, Mom. Maybe he left something for you." I looked at my son, my rock, my reason for everything. Something inside me shifted. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew one thing for sure. If there was anything left to be said, I needed to hear it. So, I packed my bags and prepared to return to the place I had sworn I'd never see again. The funeral chapel was smaller than I remembered, the air thick with the smell of old flowers and incense. As I walked in with Ethan by my side, all eyes turned towards us. Whispers filled the air, and I could feel the weight of their judgment on me. Victoria and Ryan stood at the front, dressed in black, their faces painted with a fake veneer of grief. Victoria's eyes locked onto mine, her lips curling into a sneer. Well, look who decided to show up, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I guess the prodigal daughter thinks she's going to get a piece of the pie. Ryan let out a cold laugh. Don't hold your breath, he said. You're not welcome here. I ignored their comments and made my way to the back row of the chapel. I didn't come for them. I came to say goodbye, to lay my father to rest, and to find some closure. The service was a blur of prayers and eulogies, none of which mentioned me. It was as if I had never existed, as if I was nothing more than a distant memory. After the service, we made our way to the family home. It was just as I remembered it, grand and imposing, but cold and unwelcoming. The guests had already gathered in the parlor, their conversations falling silent as we entered. Victoria and Ryan were standing by the fireplace, sipping champagne as if they were at a party. When they saw us, Ryan's face twisted into a cruel smile. Well, this is a surprise, he said. I didn't think you had the guts to come back. Victoria looked me up and down, her eyes full of contempt. I hope you're not expecting anything, she said. You lost your right to this family a long time ago. I didn't respond. There was no point. I knew that nothing I said would make a difference to them. I just took a seat in the corner, Ethan by my side, and waited for the reading of the will. As Mr. Thompson began to speak, the room fell silent. He explained that my father had left a video message, to be played before the formal reading. There were groans of annoyance from Victoria and Ryan, but Mr. Thompson ignored them and pressed play. The screen flickered to life, and there he was, my father. He looked older, more tired than I remembered. His once proud eyes were filled with regret and sadness. If Sophie is watching this, he began, his voice low and gravelly, I owe you an apology. I was wrong. I judged you without knowing the truth. I thought you were weak, that you were making a mistake by leaving Derek. But I was the one who was wrong. I let my pride get in the way of my love for you. I felt a lump form in my throat as I listened to his words. Ethan reached for my hand, his small fingers squeezing mine tightly. When you showed up at my door that night, bruised and broken, I should have opened my arms to you. I should have told you that you were safe, that I loved you. But I didn't. I let my anger and my disappointment cloud my judgment. I pushed you away, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. Tears streamed down my face as I listened to his apology. It was something I had been waiting to hear for so long, something I had never thought I would ever hear. I found out the truth, Sophie. A few years ago, Mr. Miller came to me with an envelope. He said it was from a friend who wanted to help with my bills. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But then I saw the handwriting. I knew it was you. You had been sending me money every month, quietly, without any expectation of thanks or recognition. You never stopped loving me, even when I gave you every reason to hate me. My heart ached as I listened to his words. All these years, I had been so afraid to reach out to him, so afraid of being hurt again. But he had known, all along. He had seen the love and the sacrifice that I had made for him. I watched you from a distance, Sophie. I saw the life that you built for yourself and for Ethan. You are a strong, independent woman, and I am so proud of you. You did what I could never do. You walked away from pain and suffering, and you created a better future for yourself and your son. The room was silent as my father's words echoed through the air. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me, but I didn't care. All that mattered was the man on the screen, the man who had finally found the courage to say what he had been holding back for so long. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Sophie. But if I can leave you with anything, let it be this. I was wrong. You were right. And I want you to know that I love you, more than you will ever know. The screen went black, and for a moment there was complete silence in the room. Then, the room erupted in chaos. Victoria and Ryan were shouting and screaming, their faces red with anger. "This is a joke," Victoria shouted. "He was manipulated. He didn't know what he was doing." Ryan was pacing back and forth, his hands clenched into fists. "We're going to challenge this," he said. "There's no way this will stand up in court." Mr. Thompson stood up, his expression calm and confident. "Your father's will was signed and witnessed 2 years ago, when he was of sound mind. There is no legal basis for a challenge." As the argument raged on around me, I sat there, numb with shock. I couldn't believe what had just happened. All these years of pain and suffering, all of the rejection and the isolation, had finally come to an end. My father had seen the truth, and he had chosen to make things right. In the end, Victoria and Ryan stormed out of the room, their faces twisted in anger and disbelief. I watched them go, feeling a strange sense of relief. They had always been the ones who had made my life a living hell, the ones who had pushed me away and made me feel like an outsider. But now, it was over. I looked down at Ethan, who was looking up at me with big, wide eyes. "Are we really going to get all this, Mom?" he asked. I smiled at him, feeling a sense of peace and happiness that I hadn't felt in a long time. "Yes, baby," I said. "We are." Weeks passed, and life began to return to normal. We settled into the family mansion, slowly making it our own. Ethan had claimed the attic for his art studio, and every morning, I would find him up there, lost in his drawings. One morning, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Mr. Miller. I opened it carefully, my hands trembling. "Dear Sophie," it read. "I wanted to write and tell you that the day your father realized it was you sending him the money, I had never seen him look so broken. He carried that guilt with him until the end. But I also want you to know that he was so proud of you, of the woman you had become. He may not have said it enough, but he loved you more than you will ever know." I folded the letter and walked out onto the porch. Ethan was sitting on the steps, sketching a picture of a bird. I sat down beside him, looking out at the beautiful garden. "He saw me in the end," I said, more to myself than to Ethan. The girl who had been erased, the girl who had been forgotten, had finally found her way home.